Hey everybody, movie reviewer next door here, and I'm back with another review. This time I'm finishing out the Underworld series with Underworld Blood Wars. This is an action horror film directed by Anna Forster from 2016, and it stars Kate Beckinsale, Theo James, Tobias Menzies, Lara Pulver, Bradley James, James Faulkner, and Charles Dance. In this film, vampire death dealer Celine fends off brutal attacks from both the Lycan clan and the vampire faction that betrayed her. With her only allies, David and his father Thomas, she must stop the eternal war between Lycans and vampires, even if it means she has to make the ultimate sacrifice. So, what did I think of Underworld Blood Wars? So, I'm kind of going back and forth on this because, on one hand, I can 100% see people being like, this looks cheap or whatever. In places, I agree, and I'll get to that. And that it does fuck up a lot of things in the series still, even if it doesn't follow some of the stupid things from Awakening. But I I think I like this a slight bit more than Awakening. I'm still giving it the same number, 7, which means decent enough entertainment, not like a super recommend, but if you're into the series, sure. But I think I like this slightly higher than Awakening. I'm going back and forth on that. But let me get to the cast. Also, by the way, spoiler reviews. Heavy spoilers. Kate Beckinsale plays Celine. I think she still does the role pretty well. Some people said that she was phoning it in. She actually has some emotional moments in this that work pretty well. Some moments of the character not being an unstoppable, impenetrable badass. Um, but yeah, she still did good. Theo James plays David. I mentioned that I thought he was an interesting character in the last review. I don't mind him. I think Theo James does a good job in the role, but the character is kind of flat in a way. Like I feel like they want this character to be more than he really is, and he's not that special. Um, Tobias Menzies plays Marius. He's one of our main villains of the film. Tobias Menzies, many people will know as being one of the main villains of the show Outlander with Sam Heughan, Katrina Balfe. A show my mom really likes. I've never watched, but I've seen some scenes with him. I like his acting in that show, and I like his acting here, but it does feel like they're trying to just have another character like Lucian, but he doesn't really have a lot of. The character is kind of one dimensional in a way. But Lara Pulver plays Samira. She's a new wait. She's a new vampire elder or something. I don't I liked her acting. Again, the character is very one-dimensional evil, but I think she plays it well enough. And I find her and Tobias a lot more menacing than Stephen Ray in the last film. He was just kind of a very stock villain, and that's one of my big issues with Awakening. Um, Bradley James plays Varga. He's basically Samira's right-hand man. Um, Bradley, okay, I know this guy from iZombie. He was a kind of a guest star in the first season of iZombie. I did enjoy him in that show. I liked his chemistry with the other actors. I like him here. He works. Uh, James Faulkner plays Cassius, who I think is supposed to be the leader of this coven. Uh, he does fine. He's an actor that's been tons of random movies. And Charles Dance plays Thomas, the father of David. I like him. I am fine with what they do with his character. He again, spoilers, they kill him off kind of halfway through the movie. And some people might say, oh, it's because Charles Dance is expensive. He's in here about as much as he was in the last film, so I really don't think that's it. But again, it's a popular thing to have a new movie come out and you kill off a main character, but I'll get to that. But here's the thing. With these films, I'd say there's kind of a pattern. The odd number films in this series, and I'm not including Endless War because that wasn't really a film. The odd number films in this series are more so story based than straight up action movies. And while Underworld and Rise of the Lycans, again, are two of my favorites in the series, um, Lycans being my absolute favorite, um, they do have plenty of action, but they are more focused on an actual cohesive narrative. The first film being um, Celine trying to find out things about herself and help out Michael and all that. And then Rise of the Lycans is Lucian getting revenge against Victor. And this film has kind of a similar like plot to that. And again, I do think the odd number films are the best films in the series. Again, I don't think Blood Wars is an amazing film or even a good film in the series, but I did enjoy it for what it was. And if this is how they send off the series, I'm okay with that. It wrapped up most of the plot lines. There are some things that I do need to talk about that I do hate. There are things in this I hate. Let me get that out of the way. But I did still enjoy this as like a kind of action horror film. And there is some fun to be had here, mainly with the action. The action is still pretty strong for the most part. The gore is fun. The effects are pretty all right for the most part. There's some CGI that I do think they've cut corners with. The versions of the lichens used, by the way, are the same as in the last film. I forgot if they were the same in the first and second. I don't know if there are any practical effects in this. I think I remember seeing a blooper from Awakening where the bit where she's in the vent and there's an actual like uh person in a suit. Maybe it's suits with CGI over them, which I've always found to be a weird thing. Just make better suits or animatronics. But no, the action in these films in this film is still pretty fun. If you're watching this just for like kind of mindless action movie, sure. Um, but then again, the second and fourth, I'd say, are some of the weaker ones for sure, which are the more action-focused ones. Evil Evolution, I keep wanting to call it Evolution. Evolution and Awakening, which even though I enjoyed Awakening to an extent, I can 100% see people having issues with it. But I did give it some grace because it had the forethought to be pretty short. Again, it's an hour and 17 minutes without credits. Very, very fucking short. But yeah, this film again, it's about Celine. She's basically kind of in a similar way to how Michael was kind of just not in the last film, even though he was clearly supposed to be a bigger part of the plot. Um, her daughter Eve from the last film, played by India Isley, does not appear in this film until the very last second of the film, which whatever. Um, and Michael, like I just have to get this out of the way. One of the dumbest things this movie does is how they have. Okay, so Marius is a lichen, and we've seen earlier that he turned into some like different type of creature. And their excuse for that is that he killed Michael, and yes, the Michael that the entire last film, the entire plot was them searching for Michael. He is killed in a flashback, again, played by another stand-in, at the antigen lab, and she's like, "You killed Michael." And it's supposed to be this tear-jerking moment, and I'm sorry, it just doesn't work. It doesn't. It fails at what it's trying to give off, like I know. It doesn't work. It's it feels like a lazy throw in because they didn't want to actually tie up the Michael plotline. And again, I never really gave a fuck about Michael because they never really gave us much about him other than, oh, him and Selena are in love, and in evolution they just immediately want to fuck each other. And it's like, okay, that means they're in a relationship because they're fucking. Wow. And yeah, I'm not a fan of how they tied up that plot line at all. Um, the frickin' some of the twists, like the fucking girl working for the vampire woman is like boning Marius, and it's like, oh my god, fuck off. This is so stupid. And the frickin' the twist that Theo James's character is apparently the rightful owner of the coven. It's a lot of shit that comes out of fucking nowhere, and I don't like these twists. The twist in the first film that Victor was the actual one that killed her family, and that she was lied to about the Lycans in order to get supremacy over the Lycans, that twist hit fucking hard. Even with my issues with the first film, I still like that film because it seemed like it was providing a genuinely well written and well established mythos. And I was really interested in what they could do if they had continued it. But the whole like going years into the future thing felt like it was like a shitty retcon. Like they didn't want to continue that story because the writers didn't know enough about the series. They were like, fuck it, hit reset for our own story. And like then you get twists like these where it doesn't really matter because every villain is trying to be Victor, every other person is trying to be Lucian. But then again, what made Lucian interesting was that he wasn't the villain at all. And it was actually kind of fucked up to find out what had happened between Lucian and Victor. And it's like, wow. Like the first film had genuinely shocking moments of twists like that. And none of the twists here really did that for me. None of them really stood out. A lot of them just straight up either didn't make sense or felt like they were completely out of place. So yeah, I definitely not good with that. Um, and another big thing with this film, well, first off, the Michael and Eve thing is dumb because it's just like thrown away until like the last second. I swear to God, the stand-in that is playing Eve at the very end of the movie is just CG, like a CG'd version of Indy Isley, and it looks really fucking weird, which is why they have this like snow wind blowing around her and it's all foggy and shit to like cover up the bad CGI. But like one big thing with this film is the amount of contrivances. So they have a bit of an issue with Kate stammered bit there, with Kate Beckinsale's character being a bit too uh and they have to like write in some shitty reason for her to not be powerful because very early in the movie she is double crossed by the vampire bitch, and this guy uses nightshade on her, like cuts her with nightshade, and it paralyzes her. And we never had any allusion to this any at any point, and this is just so that all these people can get killed and Charles Dance can get killed. Which again, I don't mind how Charles Dance is taken out. He's actually like putting up a decent fight before he gets killed. It's not just, oh, shocking, shocking. But yeah, it feels very contrived. The whole like I don't hate the like Otherworld thing that the like peaceful vampires are doing in the like peaceful coven. I'm not super against that, but that does make it feel like Kate Beckinsale, like Celine just turned on God mode, and also like they had to reshoot it later because her hair color changes. from her normal black to what people know of her now, where she has this like blonde and black thing, or blonde and brown. I forgot what it exactly was, but she has like blonde highlights in her black hair. And I don't mind the look. The look is cool on her, and Kate Beckinsale is still gorgeous in this film, but it does kind of feel like they rewrote it or something. Like something else was supposed to happen, and they're like, oh yeah, now she's got uber powers and she can just kill everybody easily. So a bit of a bit lower amount of stakes in a way, where it just feels like they wanted to get it over with. But still, there are some things I do have to give it massive credit for. It fixed the whole Celine killing humans thing from Awakening, where she was killing again the militaristic type cops that were just shooting people in the street. Her killing them, I didn't see as much of an issue with, but there were times where she killed people like Wes Bentley's uncredited scientist character that actually let her go, and then she got information out of him, and then she's like, we're even, which is like, what? And then she like drops him and he turns into a fucking bloody mess on top of a car, and the scientist that was just defending himself because he was scared. Like, I'm not a fan of that. I'm glad they changed it for this film. She does not kill any humans. That's a big fucking plus. Um, Again, I thought it was interesting having her fighting both Lycans and vampires at times in a way. Uh, because again, like it's a pretty fucked up relationship she has with her own kind now. Um, the Again, the villains, Lara Pulver and Tobias Menzies, even if the villains aren't amazing, aren't anything special to write home about, they're still a hell of a lot better than Stephen Ray. That's a big plus I can give this film, is that they actually work as villains. Um, I like that this film takes it a bit more. Uh, it takes itself a bit more serious than the last film, because the last film was a bit more cartoony. Again, like Evolution. I'm not against a super action-packed Underworld film. It's just that whenever they do it, these story bits are so boring. Awakening story was boring. Evolution story was boring. Underworld and Rise of the Lycans were not boring, and this film wasn't that boring either. Again, I'd say it's the lesser of those two, but it still wasn't boring and it kept up the pace, even if it was a tiny bit formulaic in a way. Like the whole like go to this place, get attacked, go to this place, get attacked. It is kind of a rot story or whatever. And I don't really want the series to continue if I'm being honest, even though I said I don't mind this film. Um, but I I really don't see where they can go with this. Like they've apparently Kate Beckinsale said she'd come back to play the character. It has been what, 8 years since this. First off, like even though I said she looks really pretty still in this, even 13 years after the first film, if she did another one, it would then be 21 years if it came out this year. Maybe 22 or 23 years since the first. And she looks massively different now. I think bad plastic surgery happened. But like, yeah, I don't hate this film. I think it's a tiny bit better than the last film. But yeah, I'm kind of glad to be over with the series, to be honest. But yeah, that was my review of Underworld Blood Wars. If you've seen the film, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. If you have any recommendations, put them down there as well. And movie reviewer next door, out.